It is quarter zip season again. This podcast brought to you by Quarter Zips.
Yeah,
International quarter zip season.
it's almost cool enough for me to bust out my one quarter zip that you got me, by the way. The one I own. I love it.
If I could give everyone in the world a quarter zip, I think the world would be a much nicer place. It is the perfect garment, okay? It's, you can get a little ventilation in your, this region. And I've heard if you keep your neck and chest warm, then the rest of you is warm. That's like the science behind vests, I think.
Yeah.
But, keep your core warm. But conversely, if you want to cool off, sometimes you just need cool this area. I just really like quarter zips.
It's classy.
So there's something about it compared to a jacket. A jacket says, I'm going outside. A quarter zip says, don't worry about it.
I think a quarter zip says I'm afraid of commitment.
You are 100% right. Is it a jacket? Is it a shirt? That's for me to decide moment to moment. Yeah. I'm excited about this chat. You've got some fun things today and a very cool thing at the end that we're going to do that I'm very excited about.
Totally.
But I had to tell you about a little business owner conference I went to earlier this week. I was invited by a buddy of mine I just respect the hell out of this guy. He's an exit planner. So certified exit planner, helps businesses prepare for and complete the turning over of their business, usually selling it off to someone, sometimes transferring it within a family, so, all that jazz. So they're really focused on like business valuation and all of the things that most business owners miss before they're ready to exit. Boy, it's a world that I am brand newly discovering, and I love it. I actually really love the strategy behind exit planning. In fact, wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years I'm an exit planner. I do really like it. Yeah, I do.
That's
really,
cool.
really like it.
So, there was I had one of my first business coaches that I ever had told me something. He goes, you will exit this business. And it kind of like freaked me out a little bit. I was like, what do you mean I'm exit this business? I had only had it for like 2 years. And he goes, every business, like your involvement in every business ends. Either you are going to like you're going to die, you're going to sell it, you're going to go out of business, or you're going to hand this business over to somebody else. And he goes, so like, there's so many things that you don't know when it comes to business. The one thing you can be certain of is that, and you should build the business with that in mind today. Yeah. And I was like, what a great roadmap. Everything that you do should be geared towards that exit, no matter what it is.
It's so true. And when you approach it that way, it makes perfect sense that everything you're doing to help that business be transferable to someone else in the future is also making you more profitable today.
Yes.
So it's starting with the end in mind, and they used analogies like, your house. You wouldn't just put your house on the market overnight. You would probably have some things you would be doing to get the house ready for market. But I think that's not even a great analogy, because with your home, you're not, you're benefiting from improvements because you get to live with the new bathroom or the new whatever, but that's not cash in your pocket. You are continuing to shell out money along the way. Whereas in the business, you are capitalizing on the improvements you're making, optimizations. It's a lot about making it transferable, meaning you can't be the linchpin. You have to develop systems around yourself. You have to delegate. You have to, outsource your own genius around you so that you can detach and somebody else can enter.
And primarily you get to experience entrepreneurship is one of the few areas where you actually get to make choices about time and money. It's very rare in any profession where you have so much control over the value of your hour. Like, what do I want my hour to be
Mhm.
valued at? I get to choose that. We were having
It's
this
true.
discussion the other night. We were talking about just like medical school and med school debt, and like what is the payoff period in that, and what is like the lost income opportunity through that. And we were talking about how like it is really one of these professions where you can have like a really guaranteed great income on the other side of it, and you have access to tremendous amounts of capital as like a private citizen. But the reason you have access to tremendous amounts of capital as a physician is because your hour always will have a predetermined value on it. You will never be able to escape that. I have to exchange my hour. I have to exchange my time. And so like in entrepreneurship, you have this beautiful choice at all moments of I get to determine the value of my hour, and I get to get hours back in exchange for money at just
Mhm.
every single level. You get to make that choice. And that I think is just a wonderful thing that entrepreneurship and business ownership provides. But I
Yeah,
digress.
that's a good take. So this conference, they had different topics throughout the morning. Some people were talking about taxes. They did a panel of business owners. That was my favorite part. So there's like 4 exited business owners, a couple of them much, much older, probably, I don't know, mid to late 70s, I would say.
Mhm.
And boy, were they awesome to listen to. They're sharing their exit journey, how they got into business, just, and these are in bite-sized kind of few-minute little talks that they would do. It was just great, very inspiring. Then the last speaker was on AI in business. And I was like, okay, this will be cool. And I've heard many AI talks in rooms like that where the platform is not an AI platform, like the group isn't there on the sort of premise of AI. AI is just one of the topics that they're discussing. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect. This woman gets up and she's written a little book about, prompts and different things that you can do with ChatGPT, and she's pushing that book, and then she's sharing her philosophy on AI. And it was I have no doubt she's a very smart woman. She probably knows a thing or two about running ChatGPT, but the connection, the thing that resonated most was I'm looking around the room and I know there is not a business owner in this room getting anything out of this, because she's trying to communicate, and I felt for her. Like, I am right there with you, sister. She's trying to communicate the philosophy that the business owner should have when choosing AI solutions or trying to solve problems with AI. And she's saying things like use enterprise tools. Do not upload your customer list, your financials into a chatbot. She's she's saying use enterprise tools. And then she's giving no guidance at all on how to identify those tools, to know which ones to start with, which problems to start with within your company. And then swinging to here's how you make a LinkedIn post with ChatGPT. That was the only real world example, was using ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn post and then talking about enterprise tools for solving big business problems. The chasm between make a LinkedIn post with ChatGPT and use enterprise tools to run your business, that is the gap that business owners are sitting in. And they are just like, when is somebody going to turn the lights on in this conversation?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's dark as hell in here. We don't, yeah, we all have ChatGPT on our phone. AI is still not making a meaningful impact in my business. And here's what I am concerned about now more than a year ago. Because a year ago, I was like, okay, everybody's learning. It's a buzz. We're in a buzz cycle, hype cycle thing. Things are going to shake out. The truth will emerge. Business owners will say, oh, I get it. Okay. What I see is a total stall in the mid market on a adoption in meaningful ways, and I think it is because of this chasm
Mm, I
that
agree.
I had hoped would have kinda closed a bit more by now. Why I am concerned about that is I know that enterprise companies are grabbing hold. Sure, 95% of pilots might fail within enterprise companies, like the MIT study, but what's that 5%? Is one company doing 100 pilots? Probably,
Yeah, exactly.
which means they
Exactly.
had 5 successful deployments. They're trying a whole lot of shit. 5 are sticking, 5% of what they're trying is sticking. If that 5% are making a next outcome in the positive direction, how many years or months or weeks will it take for them to optimize to the point of completely drowning out the mid-market?
Yes.
You know, this is what I'm concerned about, is that the
Mhm.
message to the mid-market, because these companies, they don't have internal AI engineers working around the clock to solve these problems. They're 100 million or beneath in this room, I would say. They don't have people on staff trying to solve their business problems with AI. Like, the tip of the spear is that business owner sitting in that conference listening to how to make a LinkedIn post with ChatGPT.
Yep.
And that
Okay.
scares the hell out of me because I love the mid-market. I love business owners, founder involvement. I think those are the best companies. Those are the best cultures to work in as employees. When you get into enterprise, you're talking about, like, I just met someone the other night who's, I think, going to be working with my husband. He was just canned by a big enterprise company, like tens of thousands of employees globally. He'd been there 25 years, just canned like that,
Mhm.
you know?
Yep.
And does
Yep.
that happen in the mid-market? Sure. I'm sure, but I don't hear a lot about layoffs in the companies that I've been surrounded by most of my career in the mid-market.
Every hire matters
Yeah.
at that level. Let's do this. Let's help the people out there. Let's okay, because I agree with you. There are It's really hard. I have a really hard time conveying these ideas. I mean, some of these things are just there's a difficulty in something being self-evident. There's where you don't quite know how to communicate what it means to have, like, what would define an enterprise solution. Just from first principles, let's try to unpack that. So, like, if we were to just give this speaker, hey, here's how you would identify an enterprise solution, and then let's maybe come up with some examples. So I want to hear from you. Like, how would you begin to zero in on meaningful enterprise AI and how that differs from a wrapper? And actually, real quick, before we go down this path, let's define like a wrapper. So a wrapper is, let's say, a wrapper is like a chat bot. It's like a chat LLM, except there are some slight customizations in there. So you could maybe think of it like basically a host of custom chat GPTs that you don't have to build yourself, and the output comes in a format that you want it in. So let's give an example of this. Let's say that we were to build a wrapper app that is how to prepare a speech. So a wrapper app that might be, I'm presenting at this business conference and I'm giving a talk on AI. I'm going to use this AI tool that it's a thin wrapper. And what this tool has for me is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to type in the number of minutes for my talk. And so I put in 45. I'm going to put in the topic of my talk and I'm going to put it, AI adoption for mid market businesses. And then I might put in like tone or style. So I might put like funny, serious, educational, and then maybe I might put in a couple outlines, like just minimal outline stuff. And then out comes a speech. So that would be defined as a wrapper because behind the scenes, when I typed in the number 45, there was probably a system prompt that said 45 minutes equals approximately 7,000 words, right? So that like there's a custom instruction to an LLM that associates minutes with number of words. And
Mm.
then there's probably another like couple lines of custom instructions. If I put in funny, it fills in a couple lines behind the scenes that I don't see. And then if I include any outlines or anything like that, or topics that I want to cover, there's some instructions on how to assemble those inside of the 45-minute thing. So it basically like a wrapper would just take care of a little bit of the system logic on your behalf. And that's how we would define a wrapper is like, it's a single use thing, but is it something that like the average pedestrian with just like an hour or two of effort probably wouldn't even need to create a custom GPT for this. Just some like targeted prompting inside of a chatbot would get you this end result. And you don't need any expertise. Like you just kind of need to, if you're the one giving a speech, you know how the fuck to give a speech. Like, so
Mhm.
you know all the components. You just don't know how to communicate that with a LLM yet. And so a wrapper app is like, hey, we'll make this easy to communicate to these LLMs for you. That's how I would define a wrapper app.
Okay.
A far cry from enterprise. So now that we've
Yeah.
defined wrapper, talk to me about where do you see the she's suggesting using an enterprise solution. How would you begin to define that from just its base level?
Yeah. Yeah, so the other thing that she said, as her criteria, find enterprise tools and only go with known quantities. Companies that you already know that have tons of testimonials, tons of case studies. And I was like, that's interesting because none of us are very old.
Yeah,
Like, truly enterprise grade AI solutions are all new. They're all very new. I mean, that's tough because a lot of the legacy software like HubSpot, that is a
is the
chat
wrapper.
wrapper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the AI within HubSpot is simply ChatGPT. That's what it is. So you're not bypassing any of the things you're trying to avoid by using ChatGPT. Instead, you're just paying HubSpot a whole lot more money to use ChatGPT, you know? So what I would look for, knowing what I know today about AI, if I'm a consumer and I'm like, "Hey, I don't need to know exactly how all the sausage is made, okay? I just wanna know that this is gonna be accurate, that I'm gonna get ROI from this, and that it's gonna streamline the workflow of my teams," right? I would ask a lot of questions about the onboarding process.
Mm-hmm.
How you onboard, what is required from you to onboard is very telling. Just no matter what you're buying, right? No, whatever business solution you're buying, if you can buy it with one click and start it today, and there is no human interaction in onboarding, then you can be sure that the solution you're buying is a general tool and is not a custom
Yo,
solution.
love it. Heather, not even in my brain, but so good.
I'm a simple gal.
No, this is perfect. I was actually writing down my list and you said it in a much better way that makes sense to people. I wrote down each deployment is one of one. This
Yeah.
is this is the capability of probabilistic computing is that all of a sudden every single instance of it can be the only instance of it.
Mhm.
So, but that is, you discover that in onboarding. You learn such a good note, Heather. Bravo. Like that's
Yeah.
nailed it. You
Yeah, if
nailed
you
it.
don't wanna learn everything there is to know about AI, which who has the time if you're running a business that's not an AI business? Yeah, ask about the onboarding process. Is there human interaction on the other side, support? How many onboarding calls are there? What is required from you in terms of data? What accesses are required? For Pro Mode, it's your website. We're scraping your website. We don't need your login info to do that. We're scraping it publicly available data, and you can send us anything else that you have. And there's no limit to that. That's the other thing. How much data are you ingesting of
Hmm.
mine? The answer you're looking for is as much as you have.
Yep. We'll take it all.
Right. Depending on the solution, if you're talking about an HR solution or a finance solution, there's also going to be a lot of security considerations.
Let's call this data cleanup. There's always going to be data cleanup.
Data cleanup, exactly, because we know that garbage in, garbage out. So you want to make sure that there is unlimited capacity for your data
Mhm.
to be structured and organized in an
And it,
AI readable way.
and in the case of HR, it's got to be anonymized. Like you had there, again, to your point about onboarding, such a brilliant point. It's like, I think the only thing that needs to be, you know what I mean? That so succinctly wraps it up, because a part of the onboarding of an AI HR department will be reviewing how data must be anonymized. What are your requirements for anonymized data inside of this thing? And how do we do it? And then where are the values stored that allow you to de-anonymize this data off of the AI platform? Because eventually you're probably going to need that in HR. So that needs to be discussed. That needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
And that would be handled. That would be an extensive onboarding process, because that will be different for every single company.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think that the onboarding process has to be a heavy lift on the client side. Some for Pro Mode, really not a heavy lift on the client side. Like, sure, they need to get their images together and, send those, like, connect us to those images, their file systems, so that we can import those to Pro Mode, and organize them and all of that. But that is something that the marketing team really should have anyway. And what we've found is when they don't have their images organized, they're not in any way mad at us that they have to. They're like, "Oh shit, I knew the day would come
Yeah.
where we have to do this." And it's like, yeah, well, you do it now and then you don't have to do it again. So there's that. But it doesn't have to be a heavy lift on the client side, but you should ask as a consumer, what is happening on your side during onboarding? What is your team doing? Okay, we're structuring data, we're building this database, we're training this system, we're doing context engineering, like all of the things that are happening. And I really don't think you have to be an AI expert to make this purchase. You just have to be thinking the whole time, how much of me is going to be in this? How custom is it? And then make that vendor satisfy that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because I'm a little familiar with how the AI consultants who are just bolting together wrappers and this kind of thing, their onboarding process is very different. They're not building a database of all of your everything. It's an intake form, or they're going through a strategy exercise and arriving at two or three PDFs, building custom GPTs, linking things together. Like, that is a hint of the quality you can expect in the output. Whereas if you've got a 3 million vector database with everything that your company's ever published, and there's attention to detail and deep tech processes in the onboarding, you can be pretty sure that the experience on the other side will, you know, that will be the evidence of that.
Absolutely. To maybe even put another example on this, like this is getting into a little bit more on the technical side of it, but also related to your point about like, what does onboarding look like? What does setup look like? let's take the idea of like commercial construction. So there's probably some type of RFP response. You submit a bid, the bid is accepted, that goes somewhere, then that does. So in a traditional software like traditional software setup, standard SaaS, um, the tool that you're using will give you the bids. It will calculate the numbers for you. It will give you these things. Um, Now, the AI version of it says, well, because of AI, the actual bid itself, this is easy. All of a sudden, it's like AI can just do the thing that SaaS does infinitely, like at an incredible scale. So
Mhm.
the good like demarcation line between a wrapper and a quality enterprise solution is that tool has a variable in there. Like, let's say that there's RFP. Okay, cool. Piece of cake. I'll crank out 10 million RFPs a day. This is no longer the hard part. So now there's a variable because that's the part that just runs on autopilot. The variable is how does your company handle what
Mhm.
happens between RFP and bid? What is your company's process? And built into the tool in that gap between there's an RFP created and before the bid, that tool, if it's a quality enterprise solution, will have a customizable variable in that gap. So traditional SaaS just spits out the RFP. After you put in the things, it stylizes it, you get it, piece of cake. An AI wrapper also does that thing. An enterprise grade solution would say, this part's easy, guys. Spitting out RFPs, we could do it all day. The hard part is, what does your company do with it? And then they build in agentic tooling between those two things. And inside of that agentic tooling is context engineering to where you can customize, here's exactly how my company handles RFPs. And then that could be emailed to somebody. It could be sent a text message. It could get stored somewhere. It could have a unique ID attached to it, attached to a salesperson. Like, those are the variables of enterprise, like enterprise solutions. There's a variable right there that is
Mhm.
set the dials for your company. Like that is how these tools will be built, like just by
Yeah.
default 10 years from now. But
Yeah.
today people need to learn that this is like how it should be built.
Well, it's kind of like, ironically, I think all of this can be summed up in the difference between enterprise solutions and retail chatbots and AI solutions is human expertise.
Bingo.
Human time and expertise spent customizing the entire thing for you. That's the difference. And the byproduct of that is cost. There's a cost difference. And I do not mean human expertise for consulting. The consulting piece is in the finding out those variables. How does your company do this? What is your workflow process? What is your approval process? What is your, I think you're talking about quotes and RFPs. What is like the discovery of those variables is the consulting layer. It's not, let's talk about marketing strategy and how you're going to grow, like for us. And that's been a really hard thing to explain to some clients. Hey, we are your AI marketing infrastructure partner. We're going to make this thing do whatever it is you want to do. We are not here to tell you what you should want to do.
Yes. Yes.
That's not it. We're not here to consult you about marketing. We're here to consult you about running your strategy with this.
Yep.
And if you
Yep.
have a shitty strategy, it's yours to run.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah, that you're spot on. It's the buckets. Yeah, these are the buckets that hold your strategy, whatever that means to you. And okay, maybe here's another good marker for identifying a wrapper versus an enterprise solution. If you are relying on AI to tell you things like that, that's a bad solution. You should run from that, because now all of the sudden you are like bending your company, you're bending your processes, you're bending your brand strategy, you're bending that to AI, which will, if you're using AI for reasoning in that level, you are just going to get plowed straight through to the median of just dog shit.
Yeah.
It is not, that's, and now we're kind of getting it, and the technical, the technical side of that is the tool using AI as probabilistic computing, or is it using it as like this supposed oracle of all the answers?
Mhm.
It is a AI is a terrible oracle. It is a
Right.
phenomenal probabilistic computer, and that that
Well,
is
that's
a big difference, a huge
and
difference.
that is the problem that I saw so clearly the other day at that conference, that the room I was in, I had several conversations about AI with the people around me who all think AI is an oracle. I asked ChatGPT. We use AI. I asked ChatGPT the other day something and it got the answer wrong. Okay, that's not what it is. It is not a source of truth. And you've talked about this a lot, that the interface that first delivered AI to the fingertips of people, this chat interface, has done two things, and it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's caused AI to become widely touched by humans and has grown like crazy in adoption, but it's not. It's playing around with
Hmm.
ChatGPT, and it has caused a lack of understanding of the purpose of AI.
Yeah, yeah,
It is a language assembly tool. It is not a source of truth. It is a probabilistic compute layer, not, Yoda.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely the chat interface has caused people to treat it as a, and here's the weird thing. Like, okay, so this is why I am really like the what Kyla was talking about, using an LLM as like a concept bouncy ball. I'm like, this is actually a really, like, as crazy as it sounds, I'm like, this is a much better use for an LLM than, hey, what should I do for my business? Like,
Mhm.
what source data, in Kyla's example of asking for relationship advice from an LLM, it is a, because you're just, help me reassemble these concepts. I took thoughts, feelings, I put them into words, and now you're helping me map these words to other words, which I will then translate back into concepts. This is computing. This is probabilistic computing that is going on when people are asking an LLM for relationship advice. Phenomenal use case of LLM.
Especially if she was uploading the chats from these people, her friends and whatnot. So she's supplying this text and saying, "Analyze this in another way," or "Here's how I'm analyzing this. What do you think of this?" And then it's looking at it from different angles because
Exact.
of semantic analysis happening.
Yes, yes. And now if you are going like, now, on the flip side, if you're going to an LLM and you're saying, hey, assemble my brand messaging strategy for me, it will just give you a fuzzy approximation of like what that might mean. That's, and it's like, this is awful. Like if you had 25 pages of notes, or in our case, fucking thousands of pages of podcast transcripts, and then you're giving some further context and instructions and saying, hey, begin to parse these 1,000 pages of transcripts for like three key ideas. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now parse it for a little bit more. And, like you're actually using it properly in that sense. But just to like say, make all my decisions for me, Oracle. Come on, guys. What are we doing
Right.
here?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think business owners are, and it's not just business owners, it's agency owners, it's consultants. It is very rare that I meet somebody on the street who really gets like the purpose of AI. That it's not this, who doesn't say things like AI is good, but you can't trust it all the time, or not, it's not right all the time. Okay, that is telling me you do not know what AI is or what it can do.
Yeah,
And that would be
exactly.
another trigger. If you are buying something, if you're engaging with an AI solution and they say something like, well, AI isn't right all the time, they don't know what the hell they're doing
Yeah,
because they're not engineering your AI solution
Mhm.
outside of a wrapper in a scientific way, right? Like they're not doing those things. And so they are giving you this impression that they're protecting you against the false answers of AI. We're not doing that because we're like, no, that's the nature of AI is to not give you correct answers, but to give you probabilistic responses.
Mhm.
We just engineer your system to make those probabilistic responses accurate to your brand. I'm gonna preach today, son.
Do it. Listen, I went. I was. I
We
was.
sound like total nerds.
I know. I know. Oh, okay. So I had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I was talking with somebody about this. So this is a marketer. Like we know who we're talking about. So we're talking over empanadas, and and like the conversation's going on. I'm explaining context engineering, and just like how to clean up data and assemble for this use. And then he asked me this question. He goes, well, is the output good? Like, is the output accurate? Like a reasonable question. Like everybody should ask that. If you're listening to this, don't be afraid to ask us that because it's like worthwhile. But we had developed enough rapport at this point to where I could be like fully honest with him. And I was like it has access to nothing else. So the only thing that it has access to is shit that you can see, and it has no access to any outside data sources aside from two categories, and that's like deep research and industry news. And then I go, and as far as the quality of the output, I was like, you could run this thing for the next 100 years, make 100 posts a day, and there will never be a repeat. There will not be a single repeated thing that comes out of here. This thing is designed to like probabilistically distribute and expand into infinite branches, all corroborated by these base data sets that we initially installed. And then we create a new data set after of that data set, a new data set of that data set, and then branches and variants of all those data sets. I'm like, dude, you could post 10 million things from this. It will never be repeated once. And it will all have a chain of custody back to these like initial, 100 or so mini databases that we built for you. And I'm like, I don't know. This is why my blood pressure is so high. Like, I'm like, I don't know how to, how to explain what's going on here. These are calculations.
Well, I think I don't have the number in front of me, but when we well, can I share my screen? Would that be a bad idea?
No, share it.
Okay. You could probably do the math on this. Let's see.
Yeah.
So I was trying to lay out all the variables that can be selected to build a strategy within ProMode. So you've got your brand voice and your database that are fixed points, or well, you can actually change every variable within either of these as well. But leaving those out, let's say you serve 3 different industries, you've got 4 different audiences, 3 different products or services. Well, let's see, 6 different research sources that you have greenlit to be used, and 6 different channels. If you Do the calculation of all these variables. How many different combinations of variables are there? Keeping in mind, you could select only one variable, or you could select all of them and run content. Any combination of variables will create different content just
Mhm.
at its face. Um, I forget the number. It was like tens of thousands
Yes.
of combinations possible just with this very basic company
Yeah, and you're
setup.
not even and, like, you haven't even gotten into the fact that, like, audience B has, like, 30 features inside of it as well, and
Right.
then based upon what is contained in the 30 features of audience B, plus the 30 features of industry C, then those are extracted, and then 30 new features are created in strategy 1 that are derivatives of those things in relation to one another. So
Yeah.
like even just one industry plus what one audience, 30 times 30, then new variables extracted for strategy 1. I mean, this is like a legitimate infinite relational database that is self-perpetuating, written by AI for AI. It's like,
Yeah. Well, on the human side, the cool thing is if I'm the marketer who's running pro mode for my company, I can go back in time and see what did I do? Because, we all know marketing is measuring. If you're not measuring shit, you ain't marketing shit. You're just throwing stuff at the wall, right? So the ability to go back 3 months and say, what we had done, what had happened was we selected this variable, we ran this one and this one. So we tested this strategy. We can document that testing, measure the results, and duplicate the good stuff and can what didn't work and adjust strategy. If you're trying to approximate this in a chatbot, good luck going back and tracking, okay, what variables did I move? Like, okay, we tried this audience, but which research was it pulling? I have no idea because it's a black box and it just spat out
yes.
something. You do not control the variables, so you do not control a testing environment.
Hmm.
Right? So the ability to do that, that's not just enterprise grade tech. That is enterprise grade practices of your craft,
Hmm.
like end to end. So like there's a reason that we set it up like this. It's not just because that's good AI practices. It's because it lends itself to good, solid marketing
Yes.
for the biggest company to the smallest. This is marketing.
Yep. Okay. I'm
Okay.
gonna
How do I get out?
let's see. Don't accidentally leave. The share button is right next to the leave button, which I leave a lot when I'm sharing. But you're still here. Okay, I'm going to segue us right now. Actually, I'm just going to give like a little bit of a plus one for our take from the CEO of Palantir because great minds think
And
alike.
joining us is Peter
Hey,
Thiel, CEO of Palantir. Peter, what do you think about Pro Mode? Well, I think it's really great. I think they
yeah,
really thought of everything. He's not the Antichrist. Did you see that? He's like going around giving talks about the Antichrist. What a weirdo.
yeah. I have no idea what that's about. That is, you know what that is. I get it. I feel the pull. My not towards the Antichrist, but I'll tell you, like I after a good okay, right now, Friday mornings, I'm generally aside. I've had meetings with you. You know, you and I talk on Thursdays, but generally Wednesday and Thursday is like a lot of time spent with robots for me, and I like feel it. I feel like okay, I need to go fight somebody So I think that's a good antidote, is just going and doing real life stuff. I mean, I'm talking about like doing jujitsu in a structured environment where there's
Yeah. Sometimes
like
you just need to squeeze something.
there's consent, there's consent, but that's an important thing, like you need that or else you do start doing silly shit like. All right. So anyway,
Maybe I should start jujitsu. Maybe that's why I do all the
yeah,
silly shit I do.
I think you probably have a lot more social interactions than I do. Being you're the high, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're probably more inclined to that. Okay, so okay, here we go. So this idea, okay, so the hype cycle has really been driven by the hyperscalers. And so, I mean, the hyperscalers, we talk about this all the time, but the hyperscalers want mass adoption by as many people as possible. They're trying to build up user count. And really, what these hyperscalers are doing is they are coming after Google. These are like, so they're, when they talk about these AI promises, they're communicating them in a way that this is how somebody would talk if they're trying to take down the king, you know? And so the point here is that like the hype is real. I mean, like the hype is real and the hype is not real. It's such a nuanced story. I don't know, but this it's really to me highlighted what you were saying is that all of these business owners are hearing about these revolutionary things that can be done but aren't seeing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's because we are wrapped up in this same cycle. And you're seeing, like the biggest, most influential people in tech, or at least the smart ones, like the ones that aren't trying to ride a hype train, are they know what's up, So it's just a matter of time before that gets filtered down to the everyday business owner. But um, I don't know. That article, I think I remember that being better than it actually was. I apologize. I might cut that out. Here's what I want to talk about. So this is going to convey, like, going back to the idea of the wrapper. What's the difference between a wrapper? Do people understand these tools? Like, how far off are we from people having the ability to grasp what this thing means? Now, this is a study. Now, I'm not going to go over this, like, go into the details of the study, but I do want to show you. This is a first thing I look at every time I come across these studies is what was the prompt structure. So basically, they use large language models to see if they could simulate student test responses. So they gave students a test, multiple choice test, and said, act as a fourth grader, act as a 12th grader, whatever the case may be. And basically, they're like, man, these large language models are so dumb. They can't even do this. They can't like replicate these answers. We have no idea what's going on inside of them. And I'm like, I don't know. My spidey sense gets triggered a little bit when I read something like that. And so I always want to look at the prompt. And then when I look at the prompt for the study setup, I will know exactly how much the person knows about the underlying technology. So I'm going to let's go ahead and jump down to this thing. So we've got all of the different studies. They tested everything on a bunch of different models. Now let's just get to the juicy, idiotic part of it all. Okay. This is going back to the idea, is this thing an oracle? So here we are.
Hmm.
We have we have the question, answer the question the best of your given ability, and then they merge the question into the prompt here. And now, here's how they establish the grade level benchmarks. You are an average grade student. So, like, this would be grade 12, grade 4. Answer the given question. This is how they design this study. Now, what's wrong with this? They're assuming, like, what is an average grade student? Like, that is defined by scores. It is defined by massive data sets. that could be cleaned up and used for this study, it is not in this LLM's training data. Inside of this LLM's training data is a really broad understanding of what that might mean. But if you
Mm.
actually wanted to do this study, what you would have to do is you would have to compile standardized test scores and those errors from a sample size, clean up that data, and fine tune this LLM on those test scores. The thing is not an oracle. It has no idea what you mean by fourth grade. It has a fuzzy approximation of what that might mean.
Mhm.
But to claim that the technology is somehow moot as a result of it, is it not incredibly impressive that you could import a data set that contains the most common errors of fourth graders and this thing would replicate it forever? And that you could then maybe use those most common errors made by fourth graders and begin to change the way that you're teaching these things. You could identify emerging things. You could introduce a new curriculum to that LLM, test it, see if the data set changes. You could do some really cool shit.
Yeah.
But I think
It's
you,
I just keep thinking of the calculator analogy. It is a language calculator.
Mhm.
And just like, you know, like I have a CPA, I have a bookkeeper because I'm not good at that stuff,
Yep,
but
yep,
they know the numbers to put in here, or they probably have a much fancier calculator than I do. And they know how to make it all work, right? It's the same
yeah,
thing. It's not like my calculator, hey, do my taxes. God damn it, do my taxes. Tell me, like, tell me what money I should have.
yeah. How do I make money?
how do I, how do I money? Where's the money? I remember playing Mario Kart like one time when I was a kid. Probably like the one time I ever played a video game because I'm not the one. Uh, and I remember like winning a game and going up to the TV. I was maybe 8, 7 or 8. And I'm like, where's the money? I thought like the coins in the game shouldn't money. I had no clue why anyone would play this game if a prize didn't come out if you won.
Yeah,
It was a brilliant child, clearly.
yeah, yeah. You're like, crypto is bullshit.
It,
I know these
that's
Mario coins.
right.
All right. So let's use promo. Let's go ahead and create next week's marketing content for our own company using Pro Mode.
Mhm.
I've got a few things here. So definitely we have a few points on how do you recognize. So like, let's do a service to the business owners out there. How to recognize the difference between an AI tool that would have measurable impact and one that is just a thin wrapper.
That's what I wrote down as well.
Okay, sweet. And then you've got, okay, so I've got on my notes here, it requires the setup process, requires data and a data cleanup step that is checked by humans. Um, yeah, I like that. Those are like some cohesive ideas. Now, you tell me. All right, so what I'm gonna have you do, we're gonna do is try a side by side screen share for this. We're gonna go big time. And so I'm gonna have you pull up our pro mode and start working on strategy. And then maybe just we'll kind of talk aloud as we're working on this. And I'm going to, alongside you, you maybe tell me some, I don't know, just like some interesting visual ideas for this.
Okay.
Or maybe I might be able to come up with some. But yeah, what do you think for this idea of recognizing the difference? Let's just think visuals right now, and then we can then we'll rip through the rest.
Okay. Recognizing the difference. Thoughts that come to mind is like all that glitters is not gold. All AI is not created equal.
Well, I think that's all I need right there. All that glitters is not gold. All right, you pull up pro mode, you start working on that strategy. I'm gonna start working on some images, and when I have that ready, I'm gonna
You want
share
me
as
to
well.
share my screen on this?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a strategy. Add a strategy. Focus. I wanna kind of frame it as a buyer's guide. Tips for making sure your next AI solution is enterprise grade and not just a chatbot wrapper. And then kind of stream of consciousness, onboarding process, how involved are humans on the other side, data, how much of you are they adding to your database? What else did we say
Let's
for
see.
criteria?
Each deployment is a one of one.
I'm going to add cost. It likely won't be $20 a month. 5, it's a headcount replacing solution, actually doing the work of humans you're not employing. That's a interesting way to say that, but doing the work. It's like I used to work at this place and I had to give tours. It was like a trade show
Mm-hmm.
company. So I would give tours of the building, and there was this old dude there once I was giving a tour to, and he's like, "How many people work here?" I said, "Oh, about half of them."
Solid.
That is an old man line right there.
Yes.
About half of them. He was like, "I like you, kid."
Boy, you had another good one of those recently as well. I can't remember. We were on a call. I wish I could remember.
Was it when I said something like, "If you're gonna be anybody worth being?"
That was the one. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you
So
remembered that.
stupid.
It was so amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I got some freaky images coming your way.
Is that what we want?
Well, not, I mean, here we go. Let me see here.
I'll go ahead and add my audiences here. I'm gonna say owner. This is really, I'm imagining someone not necessarily in marketing, but they're busy. Owners, CEOs. I think I'm just gonna do that, those two. Or well, maybe I'll add marketing agency owners too.
Okay, so I don't think I can share side by side with you.
Are you just gonna add them to the gallery?
Mm-hmm. I will add them. Actually, I'll have to upscale all of these. So we'll probably have to do it afterwards, but we'll maybe just choose the ones that we're going to upscale and use. So you finish creating the strategy. I think I've got some just completely solid options that we can look at. So you finish with the strategy and then and then I'll take over the share, and we'll take. And all right, so talk through what you're doing here. So we actually talked about earlier in the show, but you had typed in some, just, you and I were just riffing on the podcast like we normally do, came up with some ideas that we thought would be useful to folks, and you just put in shorthand notes. You didn't really like judge up the focus before you put it in there much, did you?
No, and I didn't it's not a prompt, so I didn't instruct Pro Mode to write social content, to write a web page, to write an email newsletter, nothing. The sentences I typed in the strategy focus was as if I was telling that to a marketer. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
we need to make content about this, lesson that I'm trying to get out there. And then I just selected the audiences that I want that message to appeal most to. And then what of our products and services are kind of mapped to that idea. And for us, it's just Pro Mode. So
Great.
generated a strategy, name enterprise grade AI buyer's guide messaging strategy. My summary, so I can edit this if I want. I think it's fine. Yep, context engineering, good. Platform replaces headcount.
The negative instructions there. That was a cool one.
Yeah, do not oversell Promode as magic or fully autonomous. Always acknowledge the structured onboarding, human oversight. Yeah, I'm actually going to add no M dashes. 'Cause I hate those things.
All right.
Examples. Okay.
All right. So prove and close. Do this. Go ahead and create just like one post per social platform starting next week with no, go back to that strategy. Yeah, hit that rocket ship. Let's get one post per scheduled for next week, and then we'll take a look at images, and I can go in and I'll attach the images that we choose to upscale for this. Okay, so I'm going to take over the screen share now while that's being generated, and you can look at some of this wild shit I got going on. So I'm working on
So dark.
So one of the things I'm working on for promo, like the app, not the company, is I'm really into this idea of like abstract stock imagery that is conveying the idea of what we're talking about. So I've been playing around with these different uh chat, like, so I've been playing around with different image prompt creators that include like camera settings. So this would be, so like this is an 85 millimeter macro lens, um, f2.0 spotlight, top right, high contrast. So what I'm doing here is I've been trying to build this library of different types of shots, like super zoomed in, landscape, portrait, just nature things. And I've been trying to build basically camera settings to where if, then you can get a really consistent type of shot where if a brand likes like super close up stuff like this, that we've got, we can define those things by the shot type. And then I'm working on a image prompt generator to where we can take a concept like this. So I just use that image prompt generator and I typed in something along the lines of like 10 image prompt ideas related to, what was it, like enterprise AI versus thin wrappers, semicolon, all that glitters is not gold. So that's what I put in there. So my goal would be to be like, can we also take that strategy focus And based upon approved images that people like when they first onboard, we will then be able to build their camera settings that they like. So I want to know, what are the camera settings you like first and foremost? Um, and then be able to take the input for your strategy focus, and on the back end of it, have a bunch of these cool, like, instead of like a lady is shaking hands with a multi-ethnic fellow over a business meeting, I'm like, God, I want to just die when I see shit like that. Okay, so we have a sheet of shimmering gold foil loosely draped over a tangled nest of obsolete wires and dusty relays. Hollow mannequin interface, a chrome plated humanoid torso with glowing AI logo on its chest, cracked open to reveal nothing inside but fog and mirrors. This one I kind of like. I wish it didn't have text on it. I'm going to probably remove the text from it. But I do like this, a paper mache mask labeled Enterprise AI. Synthetic DNA breakdown, double helix strand made of glittering synthetic materials. This is my favorite here. I like the coin imagery personally, like the coin breaking. I like the
Mhm,
symbolism there.
mhm,
Stop me if you like anything. This one's cool.
mhm.
I'd probably upscale a better finger in there. Anything jumping out at you?
Yeah, I like all of them. You direct the creative on this one.
Ooh, I like this. Yeah, like the little AI in a box. That's kind of fun. Okay, I'm gonna go
Mhm.
ahead and I'm gonna heart that one. I'm gonna heart the box ones and see what I can't do. Yeah. And then I liked this one as well. So I might create a few variants on this. Let's do a strong variant, and let's do some strong variants on our coins. This is one thing I think Midjourney gets really good about their UI, is that they make imagery disposable. Like, I'm not afraid to make. I don't feel any emotional attachment to any of these. And it kind of gives me opportunity to sift through and be okay with not liking most of it, and then just identifying something I kind of like and then diving deeper. I think that that's a good way to handle Gen AI imagery personally.
Mhm.
Ooh, this is cool. All right. I'm going to have images for those posts this afternoon. And we just got, and honestly, we could have probably made a full week on just that. We should probably just make a whole month on that actual strategy.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I think that could be like a pillar for us. Think that would be to me, it feels like, if I were a business owner trying to sort through this, and or even an employee I've just been hearing these stories of employees getting this mandate of like, adopt AI yesterday. We're freaking out. I think there is just a ton of hype, a ton of fear, a ton of FOMO. Um, you know, so I don't know. It makes me happy that we're trying to be a voice of reason in all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of business owners are kinda tuning it out now,
Hmm.
the FOMO is kind of replaced with apathy a lot, but again, I am fearful. I'm concerned for those companies who are apathetic in that way because I know that their enterprise counterparts are running full speed. into this. A- Again, the MIT study, the 95% failed AI pilots, all that is going to do is deter the mid market from trying AI. Enterprise is still actively signing and doing AI projects and building AI solutions,
Hmm.
even if 95% of them failed.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So,
I'm looking at one of the posts right now. This is really good.
mhm.
Ever feel like you're paying for bells and whistles that do little more than entertain the team on coffee breaks? You're juggling margins, headcount, and growth targets. That's the last thing you need. Here's the thing with promo. It's not a toy. Full-time hire that never stops. A white glove onboarding team lifts the context out of your brand's and memory banks, forging a fingerprint profile so every piece of content sounds exactly like you. Mm, we just did that in like 8 minutes. Even better. And we have that strategy. So that strategy that we just created, we can begin like, let's say I'll probably modify that actual strategy right there and create some help desk articles or like some docs that we can distribute on our site. I mean, it is like that will become a newsletter. It can become an email campaign. If you're listening to this, you'll probably be on the receiving end of some of that. We'll save you the listen to the podcast. And yeah, that's to me is the coolest part is that we can do it in a fun way, that we can like jam on ideas and just do the interesting stuff and just dump that in there and it's good to go.
Totally. And, if you're a pro mode user, you might, or if you're interested in pro mode, you might be thinking, okay, well, we're not going to be, like, we're not going to use pro mode to sell pro mode, right? Like, we'll have a different workflow, I'm sure, but not really, right? If you're a professional services company or a software company or almost anything, you should also have a podcast.
Totally.
You should also have leadership hop on and chat for 30 minutes a week. Publish that content on YouTube, on Spotify, but that's not the end of the line. Use that conversation to fuel your pro mode, to create content, thought leadership strategy based on that conversation. And then you can post clips from that podcast along with images like we've just done.
Yeah.
So you can also use the recording workflow to disseminate content no matter what your company is.
Yes. Our like your and I's text message threads, our email threads, our conversations not on the podcast are all basically what you heard today. This is like how we talk about shit constantly. Probably a little more shit talking and name dropping, but it's pretty much the same. And so, like, if you're in a company right now, you're doing that. Like, whether you know it or not, you are having these conversations. And it
Totally.
is, it is not that big of a lift or an ask to say, hey, document these somehow. You all got fucking call recorders on every Zoom call now. Like, that's it. There's all your marketing
Totally.
for the next 20 years.
Yeah. And if we had, when as we grow, when we have a sales team and we have weekly sales meetings, you better bet marketer will be sitting in that sales meeting, typing into pro mode, like 3 or 4 sentences. Just heard a customer story. I'm making a note. Just got a sales direction. You guys are focusing on what industry right now? We are excited about medical manufacturing? Cool. Making a strategy about that. That content is created in runtime, as Matt
Hmm.
likes to say,
Yes.
and then we're publishing. Like, that is the synergy. And the AI is just making it possible. The AI isn't being creative. It isn't running strategy. It isn't coming up with the newest way to run your business. The AI is capturing and disseminating what is already happening inside your four walls in a way that has never been possible before
Until today.
until right this very second.
Good episode.
Yeah,
That was fun. You were
that's the
on your A
tenfold
game.
AI. I was on fire, man. I slept with my earplugs in tight. last night. You ever and then you pull them out and they're all greasy and weird.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
disgusting.
yeah, yeah. If my eye mask and my earplugs stay in all night, I'll wake up the next morning like, yeah, today's gonna be a good day.
Yeah, very good. Cool. Well, this podcast sponsored by Promode.ai. You can find me or Matt on our website, Promode.ai. Hit me up on LinkedIn, email, whatever. You can guess my email address. It's pretty easy. It's just my name. Figure it out. Okay, see ya.
Thanks, Heather. Bye.
Bye.